Hello everyone and welcome to Creature Archives. This is Survive, Adapt, Evolve, the series where we explore how creatures from both real life and fantasy might fare in entirely different worlds. Today we're taking one of Ark's most unique and terrifying predators, the Bloodstalker, and dropping it into one of the most dangerous ecosystems ever imagined, Pandora from James Cameron's Avatar. This world is alive in every sense of the word. Its jungles breathe, its predators think, and even the planet itself fights back through the interconnected neural network known as Eywa. To survive here, the Bloodstalker will need to adapt not only to the physical dangers of Pandora's megafauna, but to an intense biosphere that's already in perfect balance. To determine how well it would do, we'll evaluate the Bloodstalker across 4 key categories: habitat adaptability, dietary compatibility, competition and predation, and reproductive success. Each will be rated out of 10, leading to a final survival score. And stick around after this because we'll also explore how the Bloodstalker might evolve over time to fully integrate into Pandora's alien ecosystem. If you enjoy this video, be sure to like and subscribe. So, could Ark's Bloodstalker weave its web among the forest of Pandora, or would the planet itself reject this invasive predator? Let's find out on this episode of Creature Archives. Before we get into how it might survive on Pandora, let's first take a closer look at the Bloodstalker itself. Standing roughly 2 meters tall and stretching just over 6 meters in leg span, the Bloodstalker is a towering arachnoid organism, seemingly part spider and part cephalopod. Its body plan defies normal arthropod structure, combining traits from multiple phyla into a single predatory machine. This creature possesses a total of 12 limbs. The front 6 are mantis-like arms, jointed, muscular, and lined with sharp spines used to seize and immobilize prey. Behind them are 6 long tentacle-like legs that function just as much like squid appendages as they do true limbs. Each foot is a complex structure on its own. The back features 2 spines for anchoring onto surfaces, while the main tubular portion carries 4 small gripping claws and a retractable central spike for piercing bark or prey. This gives the creature a terrifying range of movement, being able to cling to and climb on virtually any surface. The body itself isn't segmented like an arthropod, but it does feature distinct regions: a head, a main body, and an abdomen. All 12 limbs attach along the underside, while the back is heavily plated in chitinous armor. The abdomen houses large spiracles for respiration, along with a series of jagged spikes for defense and display. At the base of each shoulder sits a web nozzle capable of firing highly elastic silk over astonishing distances. These threads are both adhesive and tensile, strong enough to yank prey off their feet and reel them up into the canopy. And perhaps most remarkably, it can use the webs to swing from tree to tree very quickly. Its face is made up of 4 compound eyes that grant wide-angle vision, while a massive stabbing proboscis pierces flesh and drains blood and other fluids from its victims. And finally, when the Bloodstalker falls, whether it be intentionally or not, it can spread its leg membranes, allowing it to slow its descent. It's a creature perfectly built for vertical environments, ambush predation, and adaptability, traits that might serve it well on Pandora, or lead it into competition with the planet's many other hunters. The Bloodstalker originates from Ark Genesis, where it rules the bog biome, a sprawling simulated wetland designed to test survival and adaptation. Vast trees rise from mist-choked waters, their roots buried in the muck and their canopies tangled with vines and silk. Within this dripping labyrinth, the Bloodstalker thrives, using its webs to snare prey from afar, reeling them in before delivering a fatal strike. Yet what truly defines the Bloodstalker is its versatility. Despite being an arboreal predator, it is not confined to the trees. It can stride across water like a colossal nightmarish water strider, its long limbs distributing its weight across the surface tension. Beneath the water surface, it moves with a smooth, deliberate grace, capable of short bursts of swimming and ambushes from below. Few creatures in the Genesis simulation are so perfectly adapted to life across canopy, land, and water. Now imagine releasing it from this artificial swamp into Pandora's wild living ecosystem, a moon that mirrors the bog in form, yet far exceeds it in complexity. Pandora's bioluminescent jungles, colossal trees, and shrouded Hallelujah Mountains would offer endless vertical terrain for web swinging, gliding, and ambush hunting. But Pandora's environment presents more than just new hunting grounds, it brings new physical laws. The moon's lower gravity, about 80% that of Earth's, and denser oxygen-rich atmosphere would have a profound effect on the Bloodstalker's movement and physiology. In reduced gravity, its leaps and web-slinging would become even more spectacular, allowing longer airtime and greater reach with less effort. Its elastic silk could carry it across enormous vertical gaps that would normally be impossible on Earth. At the same time, the denser air would enhance drag and lift, improving stability during glides but slightly slowing mid-air momentum. This combination would make the Bloodstalker's movements more controlled and energy efficient, ideal for stalking through Pandora's canopy or maneuvering around the floating cliffs of the Hallelujah Mountains. Its silk lines, already capable of spanning immense distances, would experience less sag and more support. However, one crucial question remains: could it breathe? Pandora's atmosphere is rich in carbon dioxide and laced with gases toxic to humans. The Na'vi can breathe it thanks to their specialized respiratory and circulatory systems, but the Bloodstalker, as an Earth-based organism, or at least one designed for an Earth-like simulation, might not be so lucky. It breathes through external spiracles along its abdomen, much like terrestrial arthropods, which could possibly offer some flexibility in gas exchange, but that's purely speculation. However, for the sake of this analysis, and for having this video go past the first category, we will assume that it can manage. All things considered, few Earth-based predators could find a more natural second home than the Bloodstalker on Pandora. The moon's dense vegetation, abundant water, and vertical terrain provide everything it needs to hunt and thrive. The altered gravity and atmospheric density would, if anything, enhance its physical performance, making it more agile, efficient, and far-ranging than in the Genesis simulation. This scores the Bloodstalker a habitat adaptability rating of 9 out of 10. On Ark Genesis, the Bloodstalker reigns as one of the most efficient predators in the bog biome. It doesn't just kill its prey, it drains them dry. Every aspect of its biology is built around extracting and consuming nutrient-rich blood. Using its powerful webbing, it strikes from the canopy, launching silk threads across astonishing distances to snare prey mid-movement. Once caught, its long tentacle-like arms reel the victims in, and its massive proboscis pierces through hide and flesh to feed directly on the bloodstream and internal organs. In the Genesis simulation, the Bloodstalker feeds on a wide range of small to mid-sized creatures, everything from fish to dinosaurs and even humans. And while mid-sized may sound modest, on the Ark this can mean animals far larger than their real-life counterparts. This makes the Bloodstalker's hunting prowess even more impressive. Its webbing and limbs are absurdly strong, allowing it to subdue and hoist prey that easily outweigh its own lightweight frame. Some of the largest creatures it's known to feed on include the Ark's parasaurs, pteranodons, and daeodons. With Pandora's reduced gravity, that strength advantage would only increase, potentially letting it reel in even larger prey. That said, the Bloodstalker wouldn't dominate everything on Pandora. The same reduced gravity that helps it also allows life here to grow to massive proportions. Megafauna like Sternbeast, hammerhead titanotheres, and the Great Leonopteryx would be far too large for it to handle. Bloodstalkers living in the Hallelujah Mountains would frequently encounter mountain banshees, large powerful flyers that would present a true aerial challenge for them. Bloodstalkers are used to hitting flying prey like pteranodons out of the air, but banshees are much larger and far stronger, making these hunts far riskier. Most Bloodstalkers, however, would likely live within Pandora's vast jungles, where they would regularly encounter the mountain banshee's smaller cousin, the forest banshee. These are actually a bit smaller than Ark's pteranodons, making them much more manageable prey. More moderately sized creatures like dire horses would also make for interesting encounters. An adult Bloodstalker could probably reel in a dire horse, especially considering the Ark's parasaur, which it regularly hunts, is roughly comparable in size. However, it would need to be extremely cautious once the prey is pulled in. One solid kick from those powerful hind legs could be devastating. Even so, the vast majority of Pandora's wildlife would still fall well within the Bloodstalker's prey range. Hexapedes, viper wolves, Prolemurus, tetrapterans, and countless other small to mid-sized species would all be easy pickings. Once again though, we have to give it the benefit of the doubt. Pandora's wildlife likely operates on a very different biochemistry. Many people speculate that its creatures use copper-based pigments, similar to hemocyanin, to carry oxygen instead of the iron-based hemoglobin found on Earth. Whether the Bloodstalker could safely digest or extract nutrients from such alien blood is uncertain, but once again, for the purpose of this analysis, we'll assume it can. The Bloodstalker would find Pandora a hunter's paradise. Between its powerful limbs, long-range web attacks, and blood-sucking feeding style, it could exploit nearly every level of the food chain, with only the largest and most dangerous creatures being beyond its reach. This scores the Bloodstalker a dietary compatibility rating of 9 out of 10. In Ark Genesis, the Bloodstalker sits comfortably near the top of the food chain. Few creatures in the bog biome can challenge it in its native vertical habitat. Most of its rivals live on the ground, and even those that could climb simply couldn't match its agility among the trees. Its combination of web propulsion, long-range silk attacks, and mid-air control make it virtually untouchable. But on Pandora, that dominance may be challenged. The jungles and mountains here are home to some of the most specialized predators in fiction. The viper wolves, quick and intelligent pack hunters, rule the forest floor. The Thanator, Pandora's apex land predator, dominates nearly everything it encounters, and above them soar the mountain banshees and the colossal great Leonopteryx, masters of the skies. The Bloodstalker would likely avoid competition and predation with both Thanators and viper wolves almost entirely. These predators are primarily ground-based, and while they could theoretically climb or leap into the trees, the Bloodstalker's web-swinging mobility makes it nearly impossible to pin down. It could simply launch itself away, leaving terrestrial pursuers behind. In fact, viper wolves might even become prey themselves. A lone wolf straying into the lower branches could be silently snared, drained, and discarded before the pack even notices it was missing. Thanators, on the other hand, present a far more serious threat. While a Bloodstalker might be physically capable of webbing and reeling in a Thanator, doing so would be a grave mistake. These massive, heavily muscled predators would quickly overpower a Bloodstalker if it were drawn too close. However, not all of Pandora's hunters are restricted to the ground. The real danger for the Bloodstalker comes from above. Both mountain banshees and the great Leonopteryx would be formidable aerial threats. These predators possess immense strength and speed, and a Bloodstalker clinging to an exposed branch or gliding between trees would be vulnerable to an aerial strike. A sudden dive from above could crush its exoskeletal armor in a single blow. However, as long as it wasn't caught off guard, a Bloodstalker could likely evade these predators with its acute vision and fast web-slinging. And then of course there are the Na'vi. Bloodstalkers would quickly become one of the most feared predators in Na'vi territory. Their arboreal range would overlap perfectly with Na'vi villages and hunting grounds, and Na'vi are the perfect sized prey for a Bloodstalker. A Bloodstalker's silk strike could pull an unwary Na'vi from the trees before they even had time to react. That said, the Na'vi are intelligent, organized, and armed. A skilled hunter could potentially cut through the webbing or fire an arrow at the Bloodstalker before being reeled in, but if a Na'vi were caught and dragged into the creature's grasp, those mantis-like limbs and piercing proboscis would make escape virtually impossible. Overall, while the Bloodstalker would face new and dangerous aerial predators, its unmatched agility and web-based movement would still make it one of Pandora's dominant canopy hunters. This scores Bloodstalkers a competition and predation rating of 8 out of 10. When it comes to Bloodstalkers, the truth is we really don't know much about their reproduction in the wild. Most of what we see comes from the game mechanics of Ark, so we need to make some educated guesses. Unlike most real-world spiders, Bloodstalkers appear to lay only one or a few eggs at a time, typically attaching them to tree branches or the undersides of roots. This small clutch size immediately raises concerns in a world like Pandora, where juvenile survival would be anything but guaranteed. Even a single misstep or an aerial strike from a predator could wipe out an entire brood, limiting population growth and making juveniles especially vulnerable. However, parental care could help mitigate these risks. Contrary to popular belief, most spiders are attentive parents, guarding eggs until they hatch and sometimes even protecting their young for several weeks. Based on this, it's reasonable to assume Bloodstalkers might similarly defend their eggs and newly hatched offspring. Adults could remain near the young until they can use their silk to travel, hunt, and evade predators, potentially even sharing food during this critical early stage. Despite this, the low reproductive output remains a significant limitation. Even with careful guarding and selective nesting, the Bloodstalker would likely struggle to maintain a population in an ecosystem filled with persistent predators. Survival would hinge on vigilance and careful nesting placement. On Pandora, attentive parental care would likely allow some offspring to survive, but the combination of low clutch size and high juvenile predation makes reproductive success inherently risky. This scores the Bloodstalker a reproductive success rating of 6 out of 10. Weighing in all the factors, the Bloodstalker earns a Survive Adapt Evolve score of 8 out of 10. Its unique physiology, incredible mobility, and long-range webbing make it exceptionally well suited to Pandora's dense forest and vertical canopy. The main limitations would come from Pandora's specialized apex predators. Additionally, its low reproductive output means that population growth would be slow, making it more vulnerable to environmental pressures than faster breeding species. Even so, with its combination of strength, web-swinging, and ambush capabilities, the Bloodstalker would be more than capable of carving out a secure niche in Pandora's ecosystem, dominating its preferred vertical habitats while remaining a formidable predator throughout the forest. Before we dive into the speculative evolutions, I want to give a big shout out to the incredible artist Delta Reaper 54. Most of the creature art you see on this channel, including the amazing speculative evolutions you're about to see, were created by him. If you enjoy his work, be sure to check out more of his art. His info is linked in the description below. The forests of Pandora's Hallelujah Mountains are a place where few predators dare to roam. Between the floating cliffs and moss-draped root platforms, The wind whips violently through the vertical canyons, and prey must constantly remain vigilant. In such an environment, survival favors the patient, the precise, and the utterly relentless. While the original Bloodstalker thrived in the shadows of swamps and dense canopy, here a new form has evolved. One that dominates not the forest, but the very skies. From this crucible of wind and height emerged the Skyweaver. At nearly twice the size of its ancestors, the Skyweaver glides effortlessly through the mountain thermals. Its long membrane-linked limbs allow it to drift silently between cliffs and ledges, while fine strands of webbing provide precision control during rapid dives or sudden mid-air ambushes. The Skyweaver's hunting methods are as refined as its aerial abilities. Unlike its swamp-dwelling ancestors, it rarely waits in ambush. Instead, it patrols the upper reaches of the mountains, using aerial draglines to anchor itself while diving on unsuspecting prey. Mountain banshees and other flying creatures make up the large majority of its diet. Its mantis-like forelimbs, tipped with razor-sharp spines, can reel struggling prey in with frightening speed, while its proboscis delivers a lethal bite. Their vast gliding abilities also allow them to patrol enormous ranges, making them effective regulators of small to mid-sized flying populations across the upper canopy. The interplay of thermals, mist, and vertical terrain gives the Skyweaver an almost unrivaled hunting advantage. Few creatures can match its combination of mobility, range, and precision. Skyweavers are largely solitary outside of breeding seasons. Nesting occurs in secure cliffside or root hollow sites, where small clutches of 2 to 6 young are laid. The mother provides care during the vulnerable early weeks, carrying her offspring on her back as she glides through the mountains. This allows the hatchlings to acclimate to the air currents and learn the rhythm of flight before they can deploy their own silk-laced limbs effectively. For the Na'vi, this is a creature of legend and dread. Known to them as Sinakra, meaning Skyweaver. These beasts are mysterious inhabitants of the upper forest and Hallelujah Mountains, said to have appeared long ago without any connection to Eywa. Tribes speak of them in hushed tones, describing the subtle whirring of silk lines in the high winds just before a shadow crosses the sky. Experienced hunters and shamans are warned to be especially cautious when flying through the floating mountains. One wrong move and you could become prey to a Skyweaver. The coastal shallows of Pandora, where mangroves twist over bioluminescent lagoons and tidal currents carve channels through the shallow reefs, are a place where few predators rule without restraint. Here the line between air and water is blurred, and survival favors the patient, the precise, and the utterly adaptable. Among these waters lurks a creature of legend and fear to the Na'vi, Repel, the Wavestalker. This evolution has evolved to dominate the boundary between air and sea. Its long membranous limbs distribute weight across the water's surface with astonishing finesse, allowing it to walk, glide, and strike without ever creating ripples. Its hunting method is a terrifying ballet of patience and precision. Standing atop the waves, Repel waits swaying with the movement of the waves until an unsuspecting fish, crustacean, or coastal creature drifts too close. With a sudden strike, it shoots water-resistant webbing down into the water, effective up to a depth of 30 feet. It then reels the prey in close using its harpoon-like forelimbs. Beneath the waves, it demonstrates its full aquatic adaptations. A modified jet organ allows its abdomen to propel it in sudden burst, allowing pursuit or escape from predators like the elu or skimwing. Hydrophobic microhairs trap air along its limb and body, enabling extended submersion and efficient oxygen absorption. Solitary and territorial outside of breeding periods, Wavestalkers establish hidden nesting sites among mangrove roots, where young rely on early parental protection until they can traverse the water and wield their harpoon-like limbs effectively. Even as adults, they maintain enormous hunting ranges, patrolling vast stretches of lagoon and coastal shallows, only coming together briefly to reproduce. To the Na'vi, Repel is a creature of dread. Tales warn travelers to avoid night fishing or venturing too deep into mangrove channels, recounting stories of prey being snatched from the water's surface or dragged just beneath it by nearly invisible silk lines. Canoes and small rafts are said to have been targeted, with passengers narrowly escaping the harpoon-like grasp of its limbs. Its presence serves as a stark reminder that even the calmest waters can conceal a deadly hunter. The rainforests of Pandora's equatorial regions are alive in every sense of the word, a single breathing organism composed of countless intertwined lives. Sunlight filters through the dense layered canopy, glinting off vines and bioluminescent growths that pulse faintly with the rhythm of Eywa herself. In this vast living network, survival depends not only on strength or speed, but on awareness. The ability to sense the forest will and move in harmony with it. Here among the humming roots and whispering leaves, a remarkable evolution of the Bloodstalker emerged, one that transcended its solitary nature to become a communal, networked hunter woven directly into the living web of Pandora. From this intricate balance of jungle life came the Hiveweaver. Roughly the same size as its ancestors, the Hiveweaver is distinguished not by raw power, but by its collective intelligence and ecological integration. Unlike the solitary hunters of the bog biome, these Bloodstalkers evolve social behaviors reminiscent of Earth's communal spiders. Yet their connection reaches far beyond simple biology. Their silk has become neuroconductive, capable of interfacing with Pandora's planetary neural network. A single pulse through the forest can alert distant Hiveweavers to prey, predators, or environmental shifts, allowing coordinated hunting across vast tracts of jungle. The network effectively allows the colony to operate as a single distributed organism, its movements mirrored by the subtle hum of the forest itself. Despite the name, there is no queen or rigid caste. All individuals can reproduce, hunt, and maintain the web network. Size and age determine influence within a group, but the cooperative behavior emerges organically through chemical signals and neural feedback, creating a decentralized adaptive hive mind. The Hiveweaver's webbing forms sprawling layered networks that cover miles of forest. These interconnected silken highways allow Hiveweavers to send signals nearly instantly to communicate with other members of their colony, even miles away. At times, entire groups will coordinate to take down prey far larger than any one individual could manage alone, firing dense volleys of webbing to suspend their target mid-air before swarming in to feed. In rare but spectacular displays, the cooperation can bring down creatures as massive as a stern beast, left dangling helplessly in the canopy as dozens of weavers converge to feast. For the Na'vi, Hiveweavers are creatures unlike any other. Known as Tsakrama, meaning forest threads, they are no longer feared as solitary killers, but respected as partners in the canopy. By cautiously interfacing with their web networks, some Na'vi hunters and scouts have learned to ride the weavers, swinging effortlessly through the upper canopy while tapping into the colony's sensory network. Beyond this, skilled Na'vi can even connect to the neural webs themselves, using it to send messages and communicate with other Na'vi across great distances, effectively turning the Hiveweavers into living conduits for long-range coordination. Na'vi children are told stories, emphasizing both the thrill and the danger of trusting these creatures, and the unique bond that comes from learning to move with the forest rather than against it. In the mid to upper canopy, the Hiveweaver is not just a predator, it is a neural conduit, a guardian of the treetops, and a living testament to Pandora's interconnected biosphere. Few other creatures can rival its combination of intelligence, coordination, and ecological integration, making it one of the most extraordinary evolutions of the Bloodstalker lineage. Thanks for watching this episode of Survive, Adapt, Evolve. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future content. And a special shout out to channel members. Thank you for your support. Until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you all in the next video.